All right, guys, we are going to continue working on Spelljammer content, but today this is our lunch stream, so we are going to work on the Eberron Spelljammer campaign toolkit that we're building for my home table to test out as an asteroid mining campaign setup. So give me a second here to check my signal. I'm going to go through a quick intro, and then we're going to do some design work for a while. So beep, 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 beep. Checking my signal. Mic check, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Checking my signal. Mic check, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Sounds good. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. I'm going to hit all the boosts across the interwebs. So give me a hot second here to catch up on this. I'll go through an intro spiel real quick to give you an idea of what it is that I got going on here. And then we'll get to work. So beep, 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 beep. There's that, and there's that. Okay, so hey, my name is Theurgy. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. I've been focusing on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition since the release of Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which was 2017, I believe. It was the first Magic the Gathering setting that Wizards had created for Dungeons & Dragons specifically, and they didn't use any color mana. So that got me on the road to creating content for 5e so that we could have a color mana system to use instead of the 8 schools of magic and spell slots, because I'm a big Magic the Gathering enthusiast. So you can see that and links to other books that I've created on DMsGuild.com located down below. Great way to support the channel is I just posted that I'm live on Discord, so you can check that out. Spelljammer Preservation Society here on Reddit. Great sub-channel. Very supportive. Great questions. Fun conversations. Great place to be, and I'm really happy to post stuff there. I've just posted that I am live on Twitter, X, the platform. I'm at Theurgy. If you're still there, you can follow me to get notifications when I go live. Best way to get notification is to like, subscribe. Hey, we got another subscriber. Thanks a lot, guys. Like, subscribe, bell icon to get notifications of when we are active. If you want to see the full playlist, we're currently on episode 315. All of those episodes are here in the playlist down here. And my Discord community you can find on the About page of my Patreon, which you can access playtest content and other like polls and stuff about what's the next thing I'm going to build or whatever on the Patreon there. There you go. So, and then here's a slew of books that I've made. So we last left off our team. We were building the campaign setting here. Let's get this. I made this book cover around episode 15, so you can check that out in the playlist down below. But right now we are working on the workbench. We're making our campaign. So here in the center is the planet of Eberron. I don't intend for the game to take place on the surface of Eberron at all. The way that my campaign runs, I've been running a Spelljammer Eberron Planescape Space Opera campaign for the past 8 years. And so the way that my world works is that at some point in the distant past, Dalcor was co-terminating with the world of Eberron, which would have unleashed literal nightmares across the realm and destroyed everything in a desperate move to protect humanity and all sentient species from being wiped from the planet. The Gatekeeper Druids detonated the core of the planet, called the Morning, and it shattered the world, and it flung pieces of it far and wide throughout the system. And what remained were chunks of asteroid that still had remnant planet on it. So humanity and all the other sentient races rebuilt on those asteroids that are still here in the center of the space. The core of the planet is now just raw wild magic. So you could fly through the planet to get to the other side, but you'd be going through wild storm systems of wild magic that could hit you with spell effects from all 500 some odd spells, anywhere from cantrip to 9th level effects is just randomized. And the further into the core of the planet you go, the higher the level spells get, and the more frequently they'll hit you. So you could send somebody down into the depths in hopes that they'd be resurrected by lightning hitting their corpse. But you're just as likely to get disintegrated along the way. So it's a desperation move that my team personally doesn't dive down into very often. But the different continents of Eberron are at different altitudes. So like Arganessen, the continent of dragons, and Zendrik, the now abandoned continent of giants, those are both at a much lower elevation, like around the 6th level tier, where there's all sorts of crazy magic affecting everything. The dragons learned how to harness it. The giants had, but they're all gone now. So now there's just random tribes of Drow running around in the murk, and there's all sorts of wild magic forests. That it's Zendrik, but it's its own continent that floats as an asteroid, and it's just coated in horrible magics. So you could go delve down in there to find amazing magic, but that's not this campaign. This campaign, we're going outward. So, hey, what's going on, Dennis and Coco? What's up, guys? Looks like fun. Okay, looks actual login with my proper account. Right on, guy. Jump into the core, get long range teleport. It could happen. You could so the way that I'm gonna be tangenting all over the place because this is a workbench episode. So I do everything I want. So we're going to do a quick demonstration of how my realities work, just so you have an idea of where my frame of reference is. So here's surface. This is just, why is this so not? Okay, there we go. So here we have the surface world, right? What you would expect. And then as you go out into space, right? You're in the wild space, and then eventually you exit wild space into the astral. And then the astral can take you to the outer planes. It can take you to the inner planes. And then tangentially, you can go sideways here into the Shadowfell, into the ethereal, or into the Feywild. This is also counts things like the Ravenloft Domains of Dread, or any other tangential pocket dimension that you would face. So this is the Great Wheel, the outer planes. The inner plane is its sphere of division. But Eberron also has the Eberron specific planes like Mabar, Infernia, etc. 13 different planes that govern reality inside of Eberron, and they can be accessed either directly through wild space by going through the moons. There's 13 moons that orbit Eberron, but they aren't actual physical locations, they're portals. That if you go through, you end up in the plane of existence that the moon is aligned to. When it's a new moon, the portal is closed. When it's a full moon, the portal is completely open and creatures can flow out of the plane. But anyone at any sliver of waxing or waning, you can always go into the plane, but you can't leave it until it's full moon again. But these planes, this personalized wheel of planes for Eberron also connects to the astral plane and also connects to the outer planes. Like you can get to Infernia. You can get to Infernia through the inner planes of fire, and you can also get there through Mount Celestia. So those are like the two planes that connect there. Mabar connects to the Shadowfell and also connects to Carcery and Acheron. So those are the three planes where Mabar leads to, for instance. And it also dumps out into the astral. But you have to know about these different planes of existence to journey to them in the astral sea. And while you're in the Eberron system, they're easy to find. Now, back on Eberron, if you delve down into the ground of any of, these are all free-floating asteroids, right? But they're hundreds or thousands of miles thick. So if you delve down, if you dive past the rock into the core of the planet, that's the wild storm, and eventually you'll come out the other side if you can survive the experience. You'll come out the other side to Kabari will be if this is Brayland over here, Kabara might be over here, for instance. But alternatively, if you dive down into the depths of the Earth, you'll end up in Kyber. And Kyber is kind of like the Shadowfell. It's kind of its own subplane. And it eventually leads out into the outer planes and the lower arc of Acheron, Hades, the Abyss, the Nine Hells. That's where Kyber leads to. It also leads to these inner like Infernia, Furnace, I think, is one of them. I'm not super strong on the plains of Eberron, but it's a torus. So if you go down here far enough underground into Kyber, it'll let out into the outer planes, which you can eventually ascend through to the astral plane, back into wild space, into orbit of Eberron, and alight again. So Eberron at the core, you go outward to the astral plane, which wraps around to Kyber, which leads you back in. So technically, reality is a torus, where it's a pulsing rotation of magical energy that leads you down into the depths of hell, and it comes back out of the outer planes, pouring into the astral, back eventually into wild space. That's how reality works in all of my campaigns. It just depends on which campaign setting is it. Like Forgotten Realms, if you go far enough down into the Forgotten Realms, Underdark, you'll either end up like in Acheron, Carcery, the Nine Hells, Hades, or the Abyss. So they all loop and cycle like that in my campaigns. So there's no one path to get to anywhere in reality at all. So that's how the structure of the world works. So that's all. We're looking at the core of Eberron. I'm gonna create a new layer here and toss this one into the trash for now. Trash of inspiration. So we have Eberron, which is a shattered asteroid cluster around a central magical core that's exposed. Then we have Hub. Hub is a fusion of different asteroids that have, over time, I've shown this illustration before that's in the Spelljammer book that we're publishing, but this is a giant ring that just basically goes all the way around the planet. This isn't Eberron, but it could be. And if it was Eberron, it would have, again, like these floating asteroids here that would be lining the planet like this, and then there'd just be a bunch of gap in between them all, and then like wisps of atmosphere that go across the surface like this, in their own little weather systems, and then there's subsystems further down. But Hub is a gathering of rocks that have fused together over time and accumulated their own weather system that bleeds off of Eberron into the ring. So this entire region, there we go, burp. So this region from the asteroid belt called Hub down to Eberron, this is all atmosphere. And this whole area where Hub is located, this ring, each of these squares is 10,000 miles. So this 9x9 space that orbits around Eberron, which is where Hub is located at, that is called, that's neutral territory. Every nation has an embassy on Hub, so you can leave the planet and deal with things out in Hub. There's plenty of opportunities for players you can engage in. It's a no combat zone. If you are committing violence on Hub, you're exiled. Normally that means you're basically launched off of Hub to fall to Eberron, and if you hit a rock, good for you. Otherwise, you could pass down into the core and be disintegrated. They don't care. But that could also create supervillains. So for the most part, no one's ever heard from again. So it's a pretty safe bet to get rid of them. But everyone has an embassy on Hub. So we have, and as we discussed last time, Sarlona has a floating nation that at this point is completely severed from Eberron. But they do have an embassy here. They're out here collecting dragon shard crystals because they create psionic resonance that can be used to summon and embody Dalcor spirits that the inspired of the Sarlonas of the Kalashtar species worship as basically intuitive soul riders that grant them amazing psionic power. But then it's kind of like the vestiges from 3rd edition in the binding magic, where you're summoning these entities that take over your body and imbue you with power and speak through you as a channeler to inform the nation of Sarlona of what the game plan is for the next quarter, like at their quarterly meetings. So they're always looking to have new crystals from out of orbit to come into their crystal structure so they can continue building more and more resonance. And if they're successful, they'll eventually be able to encase the entire system in resonant energy and then be able to recreate reality in their own idealized image, which a lot of people aren't really hip to, but that's also a nearly impossible task to achieve. So they're happy to see Sarlona burning resources attempting to do that, but you kind of have to keep an eye on whether they're successful or not. The Droam is the monster society on Corvair that's ruled by Medusa and has all sorts of creatures and minions like half-breed mongrelmen sort of things, as well as like tons of gargoyles and other creatures, whatever it is that you want to introduce. They have a mild connection here through this joint to be part of Hub, and they have their own embassy down here. They are intelligent, and they are attempting to evolve their standing in the cultured society to be seen as equals, so that they are now in space, disembarking from the home planet to leave it to the weaker humanoids, because the monsters that these like gargoyles don't need to breathe. So they're really great to send off to mine asteroids because they can just do it. They never have to worry about air supply. They're good to go. But they're attempting to accumulate power so they can be respected and go and then have a space on their embassy as a seat of power and respect. The Arenal, the elves, while their nation was destroyed in the process here, but a good chunk of it got flung out into a far orbit. So what the elves have going on is they're trying to build a new moon out of growing plants. So they're slowly trying to fuse different carbon-rich rocks. So they actually collect rocks that don't have minerals in them. They want the garbage because they're using that for mulch to be able to build plants on. And so they have, I think right now the plan is that their largest structure is a 1,000-foot miniature moon that's mostly hollow. It's mostly like a Groot ball, you know, like Groot's in the middle and he forms a ball around it to protect his friends. That's kind of what they're doing. And they're trying to fill it in with branches so that they can have an entire 1,000-mile ball of chlorophyll type of life that can create its own sustainable atmosphere that they would then be able to potentially help Eberron if it falls into disaster in the future, because they're looking at the long game. They could also leave the system altogether and just let the ball, like tumbleweed, just drift off into the multiverse to go populate someplace else wherever it lands. And then you got Dargoon, which are the greenskins. Primarily, the shogunates are primarily bugbears, but they're all like the goblins and goblins, orcs, bugbears, ogres, ettins, hill giants, and of course and hobgoblins. The hobgoblins are the ruling class of shogunates that rule everything. Their nation was shattered in the process as well, so they found themselves in a large chunk out in orbit. And just like Droam, they're making the best of it. So they're trying to build power for themselves. Droam, hostile to things around them. Dargoon, hostile to things around them. Arenal has a wall of defense against Dargoon here and is mostly friendly with the nations, the humanoid nations of Eberron. Dargoon's hostile out in this area. Sarlona just wants to be left alone until they can accumulate enough psionic power to be a problem for everyone. So everyone kind of picks at the edges of Sarlona, but if you get into the core of their territory, you're going to run into serious fucking pushback. So all they can really do is, like, if you've got contracts out in this area here and here, part of your job is to keep tabs on what's going on with Sarlona, so that the embassies can be aware of what's going on. So so you're earning the rights to mine these asteroid fields, and there's just rocks that are in orbit around here. There's the Star Druids, the other faction that's active in the game. The Star Druids off of the map here. Once you get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you get five squares, 50,000 miles away from the actual hub core, then you're in. This is near space, and this is the far realm. So most of Eberron, when it was destroyed, it flung rocks. Most of the planet flung far into the far realm. The Star Druids are actively going into the far realm, finding chunks of Eberron, and launching them back at the planet. so that they'll catch into the system. And their philosophy here is that if they get enough large rocks into the core of Eberron, the wild space, the wild magic core of the planet will fuse it all together back into a solid planet again that they can then start healing. That's the Druid's thought process behind that. There's different circles of Druid that are at war with the Far Realm Star Druids, but that's their philosophy. So occasionally, as things go along, as you're doing your thing, a rock will come in from out of orbit, and like if this is your territory, like if this is your area, and there's reports coming in from far, there's clairvoyants that are looking out into space that operate out of hub to keep an eye on external planar threats that could come in and destroy all this shit. And occasionally they pick up on something that's coming in. And if the trajectory is indicating that it's in your territory, you are put on alert. And one of the responsibilities that you have, if you want to come out here and you want to mine all this gold, platinum, bieshk, crystal to be able to create stupid amounts of wealth to feed back into hub, if you want the right to be mining this stuff, then it's your responsibility to help protect the planet from incoming Druid star rocks, basically. So you got to break them down fast enough that they just become a scatter of meteor swarms that'll just break up upon entry. If you can't do it, it could come through and it could destroy your territory. So you can lose all of the rocks that you were mining, as well as all the crews that were mining it, depending on the size of the rock that comes barreling through. Or if it's not a world-ending catastrophe, you could just simply lose contract to have, like, maybe if you fuck up over here, you lose rights to be over here. So now you got to go find someplace else or merge with another guild organization that does. This is how your team gets on the board. Your team gets on the board because whoever had your territory before you fucked up, neglected their duty, and a lot of people got killed. Coincidentally, their embassy was smashed in the process. So that area was overcome. And currently, I'm actually going to let the team choose. They can either choose 1, 2, 3 here. They could choose 1, 2, 3 here. Or they could choose 1, 2, 3 here. These are the three choices that they're going to have. Here, here, or here. So the team, when I get back together with my team again next week, they get to choose which of these do they want. And that's going to set whoever their enemies are. I assumed originally that they would want Aranel and Drawn as their neighbors because it's a fairly peaceful place, but they're showing indication that they want to go left, which means that they want to hang out somewhere between Sarlona and Droam. And I will allow them the opportunity to start there, but it's going to be a very hostile space because Droam likes to raid and poach and pirate crystals, and Sarlona will poach and pirate and raid anyone that comes too near their borders. So you have to be very strong to be over here, and you have to be nimble if you're over here, but there's a lot of growth potential over here. This is safer than anywhere else because the elves don't mind you coming along here and brushing up against them to do mining because they're continuing to expand outward. That's their goal, to project further and further into wild space to be able to create their thing. So, but they're being hedged by Droam all the time because the greenskins, of course, hate elves. This is the way things are. So that's the basic setup of the systems so far. Can't post links to this chat, right? I sent you a message. Okay, cool. Yeah, can't post links. So right now what we're doing is we have our pace, which is ships can fly up to 10,000 miles per day, which means 500 miles per hour, which is airline of like modern day, like Alaska Airlines, for instance, or like Korean Air flies around 500 miles per hour just below the sound barrier. And so at 24 hours of flight, that's 10,000 miles. So if you put your ship on cruise control and you start in hub, 1 day to get to your closest orbit, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days out, it gets pretty, as you keep going, it takes more days to get there and more days to get back. It starts to get pretty dangerous. If you get more than 1, 2, 3, 4, if you get more than 5 squares away from hub, you have to build an anchor point. You have to build a way station to be able to continue going out further because everything that we're doing in the game is being sorted out in blocks of 10 days. Every 10 days, the solar system, the near space updates, We'll have faction updates. We'll have resource updates. As the rocks are in orbit, they are rotating around, but you have a geo-locked position. What is that, like a locked orbit? Yeah, the territories you have are locked orbit. So these are your territories, but rocks will come through your territory that you can mine. You can attempt to mine rocks that are outside your territory, but if you have a territory, that means that you have invested enough resources to have a supply chain that's present in that area and a rudimentary military force that's present to repel any invaders, monsters, poachers, or pirates. So if you are exploring, if you're attempting to mine things out here, you're effectively poaching open space. You could also go into somebody else's territory and attempt to mine their rocks and resources. That would be you poaching their territory, which is a hostile act, which can create military or loyalty-based conflicts. So there's 4 industries. The 4 industries are commerce, lore, loyalty, and military. Commerce handles economic trade and wealth, which is extracting and refining resources gathered from the asteroids. Lore is knowledge, education, and intrigue, which resolves tasks of espionage and prospecting. Loyalty is culture, patriotism, and traditions, which resolves acquisition of resources, acquisition of new troops and tools, like mining crews, marines, ships, mecha, weapon systems, and specialists, and as well as negotiating. When you're in conflict with another guild or nation, you can either resolve it through espionage, negotiation, or combat. So the military industry oversees delving, which is clearing monsters out of the interior or surface of an asteroid that you want to harvest, or ship and mecha combat, which is performed between different rival nations and guilds, normally in defense of asteroids, resources, or territory. So when you are in conflict with another organization, you're either going to perform espionage, combat, or negotiations. Like, for example, and what we have to do is determine the fail state of the game. So the way that D&D, like 5e Dungeons and Dragons, is built is that whenever you are attempting something, typically what ends up happening is if you're in a social setting where you're trying to gather information or get to know somebody and something has gone horribly wrong, or if you are exploring a dungeon or a wilderness space and you run across a creature and you can't convince it that you're friendly, the fail state typically for both of those types of encounters is going to be combat. And then the other thing is like trap finding. Like exploration includes trap springing, and the fail state of not disarming a trap is hit point damage. So the fail state is a combat simulation game. The ultimate fail state in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, all the way since 1st edition, is combat or death. The ultimate fail state of the game is dying or being pulled into combat, which could kill you, or being hit by a trap that could kill you, or you piss off the wrong people in a conversation and now they want to attack you and potentially kill you. There's other games that can have a different fail state. Like, for example, a dating simulation game. The fail state could be that you don't get the date that you want, or you get stuck with a person for a while that you don't like until you can prospect somebody else to monkey branch to. So you're not dead, you're now in a committed relationship, and it may be like you might have disadvantage on making any kind of prospecting checks to find new people to date, because unless you have an open relationship, which would be something you'd have to invest resources into to maintain. But normally this would be like an espionage task that you would have to perform. And the fail state is that you lose the date with the person you're prospecting, and you're in the doghouse with the partner that you're with, potentially losing your relationship altogether. There's no death here. Your characters can't die in this dating sim game, but you can lose, or you can not be in a relationship. And if you're not, and maybe you're playing like a Sigma variant character and you don't want to be in a relationship and your goal is to avoid entanglements, But the primary goal of that dating sim game may be to get into a solid relationship or to continuously upgrade the relationship that you're in. And that sort of a game, no one is ever going to die. In the My Little Pony's Friendship is Magic role-playing game, there is no combat. There is, I believe, the fail state of that is being frustrated, in that you can't make any progress towards goals that you say that you have because you're too frustrated to be able to actually achieve anything. You have to calm down and hug it out, or something like that. I haven't played MLP, but from what I understand, that's kind of how it's structured. You don't fight. Everyone is attempting ways to help each other, and your ultimate goal is to befriend the things that you're fighting. So if you're failing at building friends, and if you're failing at converting the monster to a friend, what you're doing is you're just creating conflict and distrust, and you can't move forward with making them your friend. But they're not going to attack you, so because that's how MLP is structured. So as we're going in and we're looking at the different types of challenges that the team is going to, there's basically four formats of adventure that the team is going to fall within, that we're building out mechanics to process. There's combat, either amongst ships, mecha, or soldiers. There's delving, which is hunting monsters in the bowels or along the surface of an asteroid. Then there's negotiation, which is either wresting territory from another character through legal means, or like for example, if we're going to establish, let's establish, say, if there is a pirate attacks and they take command of one of your territories, so you now lose access to mining that territory. Your fail state when the battlefield is your territories, if you lose a territory, you can no longer mine resources from it because it's in the hands of an enemy. You could regain control of that territory either through military or through negotiation. So the team then goes in and decides how many resources do we have invested in the industry of loyalty for us to be able to successfully negotiate the release of that territory, or how many resources do we have invested into the military industry for us to be able to assemble a SWAT team to go and clear that territory out. And if you fail at the military, your fail state is now loyalty or espionage, where you're going to have to use an alternate win condition to be able to reclaim that territory. And if you fail all three styles of mission, you can't get that territory back. It's gone. But every time you perform a mission, and if you fail the mission, you have to fall back to another fail state, which is shifting gears to having a different industry try to solve it. That's some of the ideas that we're playing with here. Players' end goal, unforeseen by DM, befriend every faction and turn them all into a unified group. But then they'd still have to deal with the Star Druids that are sending asteroids from the far realm back to Eberron to create enough mass in the core of Eberron to refuse the planet. So if the team does manage to unite all of the orbiting factions in near space, it now becomes Eberron versus the rest of the system. And we can scale into that. But it would take them, the way that I'm seeing this, it could take them hundreds of sessions to be able to unite all of them. So I don't know if that's true or not. If they find a way, if they set that as their goal, I got to fix my chair, so I'm standing up. If they decide to set that as their goal, they can. But they also have to know that most of these factions are at war with each other. So like you have to figure out a way to negotiate peace between Dargoon and Aranel and have enough firepower to enforce it. You then have to get Droam to play nice with literally everyone. And then you have to get Sarlona to play nice with literally everyone. And then you have to get all the little mining factions and Hub in agreement with you that this is the way. So if you can get all of the factions all working together, now you still have to deal with the Far Realm Star Druids and get them on board with a way to peacefully bring these asteroids back and put them in place. But Hub might not want that. They might like arrangements as they are. It's been evolving this way for thousands of years. Just because the Druids remember how it used to be through their dreams doesn't mean that the rest of us have any idea what the fuck you're talking about. So you would then have to get both the Star Druids and Hub on board with bringing more rocks back to Eberron, because there is a massive population that is still on the planet. We're just not dealing with it right now. So, but If they end this campaign with everyone unified, then when we advance the campaign, we come back. We may come back to a whole planet again. And the Shattered Eberron campaign theme that I've been running for the last 8 years might be finally resolved. And they collapse it back into a single planet, and we rebuild the continents as they may be on the map, and then we continue forward with Eberron as a single planet again, but with all this history about what's happened and what's been going on. So anyway, those are the ideas. So right now, what we are doing is we've got a pretty good solid narrative base. There's a ton of shit we can do with that, and we're going to build random tables for different, depending on what type of adventuring the team is engaging with, what type of missions they can have, who they would be in conflict in during those missions, and what their objectives are. So we'd have enemies, we'd have objectives, and then we'd have complications. And so if you fail, complications would trigger, which would generally force you to dive out of the industry you were working in and shift gears into another industry to have resources or specialists from a different industry within your guild to try to resolve the problem. Like if your military fails, now you need either espionage, like a SEAL team, or you would need negotiations like diplomats to go in and do something about not only the first problem, but now your military has failed. You have to negotiate out of that as well. Meanwhile, while you're doing that, there's also all these asteroids that are coming through your system that you have to invest resources towards mining. Most of these tasks the team can do in downtime activities. So the way that the cadence of the campaign works is 3 sessions. We'll do an adventure that lasts 10 days. And then at the 4th session, we're going to do a 10-day wrap-up. That's when all your mining operations wrap up. That's when your guild cycles. You'll get new resources, and then you'll reallocate them. And then on the next 4 weeks, you've got 3 weeks to run your adventure. So pushing further into design space now that we're caught up. The way that we're going to start this is we're starting with a first rank guild because all of their ranks start at 1. And we know from the tables below, we know that if you have first rank, if you're doing passive skills, like if your team isn't going to go, like if you've got like three zones that you're mining asteroids from, and you've got a first rank in commerce, then you're going to make a die roll on that 4th week when we do our resource wrap up. We're going to roll a d20 plus d4 plus 1 to get a result ranging between 3 and 25. And the quality of the stone that they are currently mining is going to determine the difficulty of being able to successfully mine the rock. So what I'm thinking is that each 10-day equals extract a number of resources from the zone being mined equal to your rank if successful. Let's say, hold on, I can word this differently. Let's see. At the end of each 10-day, roll a commerce industry check to determine success. Success equals result percent mined plus gain. We should word that differently. Equals gain a number of resource points equal to rank of result of die roll equals total resources total percent excavated. So let's look at our range here real quick. So by the time the team gets to 4th rank, they have the potential in a 3-week... So a rock is going to drift from one area to another. So if the team, for instance, starts here and a rock comes drifting through, this is currently no one's territory, this is no one's territory, but this is... Let's word these differently. Rock is coming through, right? You can mine it here for 1 10-day, which means you get 1 roll, which means you'll get a number of resources equal to your rank in the guild if you can succeed the die roll. There'll be a random number for what type of rock it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's right, we don't mine the dead rock resource. We have 1. That's right, we start with this one. So let's go to... D10. Because there's always rocks, but they don't yield anything valuable. So I'm just doing some management here real quick. D10. Let's see. I should probably have an orbital range, right? So let's see. I mean that's a random 1 to 10, considering we ignore rock. Let's see. How can I strafe this out? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus. This will be a D. Let's go. Let's go with D4 minus 1. That's a good one. So this will be 10. And this will be 0. So at low orbit range, we have a D4. Let's go with D4 minus 2. And if you don't get something that's valuable, you can't extract any resources from it. So let's just make it a D4 minus 1. And then when we get to the second, so this is the first range here. This is a D4 minus 1. And then second rank out, let's call this one D6. Yeah, D6 at second. And then third orbital. Here. Let's go with 2D4. Or do we just want to do a D8? Let's do a D8. 1D8. And then fourth orbital. Let's do what, 2D4? And then out here we'll do 3D4 minus 2. There we go. So that'll be a range of 1 to 10, but it could potentially, yeah, and it will drop down to a potential 1. 2d4 is from 2 to 8. 1d8, 1d6, 1d4, 1d4. Let's do 1d10. -1. I like that. -2d6 -2. Just want 1d. Maybe I just want 1d10. Yeah, let's do it that way. At the okay, so 1, 2, 3. There's a chance of not getting anything because you're so close. Let's do it like that. Let's go 1d8. My thought here is that these things eventually drift their way down to hub. And if we've had 1 colony, 2 colonies, 3 colonies, 4 colonies, 5 colonies, 6 colonies, like Aranel might claim it. As it works its way around orbit, Aranel might just absolutely just take that for mulch and keep it, and then you never see those rocks again. Or you just get dirt, like small grit, and it's nothing of value. It could also be that it's been like way out here. Like way out here, it started with platinum. And as it kept pushing down, everyone ate all the platinum. So now it's been 100% depleted of any kind of ore. And now it just falls as just grit. It's just grit. It's just dirt rain that comes down into the hub occasionally. So that's been resolved. So you could occasionally get these asteroids that come through that are of a 0 value. That's because it's been a rock that's been picked clean of any sort of resources of value whatsoever. So that also means we need to do a percent pick clean. So it's easier to succeed at extracting resources from a lower value stone, which is indicated by the difficulty skills of rolling the resource. So a higher rank commerce will have a higher die result, and the commerce, the rank that you have in I was thinking about setting a limit to how much resources you can gain from a rock based on its rarity. You couldn't get more than 1 resource per cycle off of iron because iron isn't very valuable. But if you got a really high yield, if there was a need for iron, you could absolutely turn a hell of a profit with iron. And a large organization is more likely to be able to turn profit with iron if it's mined well than a shitty operation that can't. So what I want to do is we're going to take the percentages here. So that means that when an asteroid comes through, we're going to have a percent of asteroid that has mineable resources. So when we get an asteroid, we're going to, I guess, roll a percentile die to see what percent of the rock is, like how pure it is. And so however many percent you can dig off of the rock, if you can, like by 4th and 5th rank, you could potentially chew off, like in 1 month, if you can hit 33% or higher, you're going to be able to drain off 100% of the rock's resources. But like if you find a rock that's in orbit, and when you get to it, it only has, like say 15% of its resources left, and it's a DC 18 to mine the rock in the first place, then for you to even be able to successfully mine the rock means that you're going to drain it of all of its resources. I guess that just means that when it moves out of your territory, it is now dirt. And it's taken off the board as a resource of value. So I guess as I'm cycling through here, I'll be able to whittle away percentages of each rock that's in orbit each 10-day cycle. So there's going to be a constant stream of new rocks coming into the system that are being, I presumably, pitched into the area by the druids. So the druids are going to be just constantly sending rocks into orbit that the team is attempting to whittle away fast enough to not destroy the planet in the process, because the druids don't give a fuck about hub. They don't care about the people that's evolved there. They just want to reunify the planet. That means they have to send absolutely everything they see out in Far Realm back into near space to catch orbit and eventually land back in Eberron. That's our action loop. Every 10 days, I can have, what I could do is I could put the rocks on a separate wheel. So each season, I could rotate the wheel one tick. And here's where the rocks are at now. So I can keep ticking. Whenever the team updates, I can just tick along and rotate it. And as a rock disappears, that creates a gap. And so we can see how many gaps there are. And if a new rock comes into orbit, that new rock will slip into that gap. And then that will, and then like maybe we can slowly fill in, like from here, we'll create a hole there and we'll fill that in here. So wherever there's a hole in orbit, we'll fill it in with a new rock from the next orbit out. So, and I only have to do this once a month as a DM, because that's when we update stuff. So I'll be able to shrink the wheel and then add a new layer of disc in the outer level that will eventually get trimmed down to no rocks, because as it's in this outer space, like Dargoon's going to pick at stuff out here, Droam's going to pick at stuff out here, Aranel's going to pick at stuff out here, Sarlona's going to pick at stuff out here, and your and other guilds that you're competing against will have had like maybe stuff built out to here and here, and there's nothing here. So like here, and then your little guild is in here, so you're going to end up with stuff that like maybe only has like 30% of its resources left. So that you're able, at this low atmosphere, at this low orbit range, you're going to be able to clean up your mess, because you're only going to have like 1 or 2 goes before it ends up in another system. So the team's goal needs to be to push out here towards the Far Realm, where they're going to get rocks that are being freshly introduced into orbit by the Star Druids pushing them into orbit. So you have a fresh rock. So if the team, and you can't claim a territory unless you have an adjacent territory, and hub is free space. So I could have 1, 2, 3 here, and if an organization fucks up and this space becomes open, you could then bid through negotiations to lay claim to this territory, pay the resource cost to take control of that resource, and now you have 4 resources. But for me to get out to here, I have to build a pathway from here to here to here to here. It only takes 1 resource, 4 resources, 9 resources, 16 resources, 25 resources, 36 resources to get all the way out to here. And then it keeps going all the way out to 100 plus resources at the Far Realm range. So, and the team is only going to get, we already know right now, if they have a successful check, with their commerce industry currently only being a 1, they can get 1, 2, 3 points. They can only get 3 points every 10 days. So they can then use those points to either store up resources to buy another rank. Like currently having first rank only costs 1 point. For them to get second rank in any industry, they have to spend 4 points. They have 1 point here. They now have to spend 4 points to get the second rank. They have to spend 9 points to get the third rank. They have to spend 16 points, 9 points, 16 points, 25 points. So they have to spend 16 points to get the fourth, and they're going to have to spend 25 points to get the fifth. There's 4 industries, and I'm starting them all with first industry. All of them are first industry, but they get to pick one of these industries to be second rank. So if they're second rank in commerce, that means that when they successfully mine an asteroid with a DC check, they'll get two resources instead of one. If they choose military instead of commerce, they'll only be able to extract one rank of resources whenever they're mining an asteroid, but they'll be able to have effectively like 5th level characters as their military team. They'll have second rank soldiers. They'll have 5th level characters. If they go in and build like a crack team for themselves, they can be 5th level. So they'll be able to gain power. If they have a loyalty of second rank, then they'll be able to have 5th level characters that are diplomats. If they build a second rank lore, they can recruit second rank rogues for espionage. So they can build their team at the rank of industry that team's adventuring operates inside of, if that makes sense. That's the idea, which is making me think that I need to diversify. I need to get delving out of military, and I need to get delving into commerce, because these are people that are exploring the asteroid. But do I? No, I think we'll leave delving and ship combat in. Let's do it. Let's switch this to delving. So how about combat and scouting? So prospecting is analyzing the quality of content that's in a zone you control, or if you want to try to prospect a zone you don't control, it's at disadvantage. But you'll be able to use whatever rank of industry you have. Espionage is heists and espionage. It's espionage, so it's like commando, like hidden actions and heists. Delving is diving into a dungeon, into an asteroid to fight monsters on the interior of the rock. Combat then becomes anti-pirate, anti-poaching, ship-to-ship combat, as well as I'm thinking scouting, as in like doing patrols to notice enemies that are potentially encroaching on your territory, like becoming aware of pirates, poachers, and monsters in the region, which is different from prospecting. Prospecting is analyzing the quality of material that is in the zone that you have. Scouting would specifically be searching for threats in an area. So if we're going to invest points into scouting along Droam's territory here, if we want to start prospecting rocks out here, we probably want to keep an eye on what forces. If we don't invest any points into scouting, then we might be able to get a good idea of what rocks are out there, but we won't have a good idea of what challenges we're going to face when we get there. So if we spend points on scouting and prospecting, if our prospecting score is high enough, we'll know that this is a high value rock and there's monsters inside of it, so that you'll know what kind of resources you're going to be able to expect to extract from it, how difficult it's going to be based on the material that you find inside of it. And the more valuable the resource inside of the rock, the higher the chances that you're going to run across monsters, and the higher level of difficulty those monsters are going to be to defeat. Outside of that, there's poachers, pirates, and free-floating monsters that you may have to deal with on the way to the rock or on your way out of the rock when your ships are loaded up with resources. If you get zapped, then you're going to lose those resources until you can reclaim your ship. So I think that stuff works. So I think I'm content with that. That feels like a good move. So delving becomes an action, espionage becomes an action, negotiating becomes an action, and combat becomes an action. Scouting is passive, acquisition is passive, prospecting is passive, and extracting is passive. Perfect. So we have one active and one passive task. The team can always designate the team can only perform one active task per 10 days. And if there's more than, if there's 3 zones that they control that are under attack, the team can personally resolve one of them as their 3-week adventure or their 3-session adventure. But all other zones that they aren't currently active in are going to have to be relegated to their passive industry check. So if there are Droam pirates that are poaching platinum rock that you were attempting to excavate, then we're going to set a difficulty for that Droam force that you're encountering, and that force is probably going to be equal to the quality of rock. So if we're looking at platinum, that's going to be a challenge 6, which means it's going to be a DC 19 for you to be able to repel the Droam forces that are coming in. And so if your military is 2nd rank, then you're going to be rolling a D10, a D20 plus a D6 plus 2. And your result is going to range between 4 and 28, which means it's going to average, 14... Mathing real quick. Yeah, it's going to average around 14. Which means that on the average, you're going to fail that fucking mission. Because on average, you have to roll at least a 19. So that's a passive roll. And you just make whatever roll you want. You can spend points of resources on a passive roll. You can spend extra points of resources up to your rank to roll additional dice equal to your rank die. So a 2nd rank military group starts with a default D20 plus D6 plus 2, but during the passive action of repelling them, if you want to, a 2nd rank military could spend 2 resources to roll an additional 2d6, take the best result. And so it might not be worth it to you to do it, and we're just going to lose that resource so bad. But you could also choose to re-roll the D6. You can also choose to spend 2 resources to re-roll the D20, take the best result. So a 2nd rank crew, a 2nd rank military industry could spend a total of 4 points to re-roll the D6 twice and take the best result, and 2 points to re-roll the D20. I don't want to make the D6 cumulative because a 5th rank guild is going to get 5 points every time they extract a resource, and spending 1 point to get 1 die, that would be they're going to get 4 points plus a D12. That's going to average an additional 6 per die roll. That means that they're going to blow out the curve and succeed at extracting resources more likely than not. Yeah, 2 points to re-roll a d20, 1 point up to your rank to re-roll, and in all re-rolls you take the best result. You're going to know what the difficulty score is going in. If your passive check is successful. So spending points. Right now, the team is only going to get, if they have 3 points, if they have 3 positions they can prospect. Here, here. They're only starting with 3. Here, here, and here. That means I have to open up territory. So the only territories I think that we're going to have open are going to be along the edge of Droam. Along the edge of Sarlona. Oh yeah, this shit's definitely not going to get claimed. We're just breaking down what is and isn't. So there's that, there's that. Yeah, let's do like that. So these are the only territories that are actually open right now. So I think what we want to do next is build out. These squares that we just made are open. So if the team wants to buy territories along Droam, they are welcome to do so, but they are going to be attacked every single 10-day. All of them. You can border along Sarlona if you want, but you're attacked every 10-day. Dargoon, these areas are actually safe. So whomever it is that owns these territories are in good relations with Dargoon. So it's going to be some sort of powerful warlike organization that has strong standings, but is also bottlenecked because of this area. So they're going to be a small but very strong organization that knows how to manage their shit. So we're going to call this Faction 1. Let's build another one. We're going to build, let's fill this in. Faction 1. We're going to go with Faction 2. Do it like that. One, two, 3, 4. Wow, that guy's doing good. 1, 2, 3. And our team is here. So they could claim any of these squares. So I can probably get rid of those squares. Let's leave them here just in case. We'll drop this down. We'll make a new map. We'll go 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Guild. I don't know what the team's going to call their guild yet. But they'll call it something. Okay, so... There. Whew, man, that is our organization right now. So, let's see. We've got different guilds. We've got 1, 2, and then... And we got our team at zeros. What do we want? What do we want? I don't know if there's anyone here or not, but I am open to a conversation about what these two organizations should be. One of them is, number one is going to be highly militant, high combat, small amount of territory, but it keeps its shit clean. Let's actually build them out a little bit more. Let's do this. Let's have them have real good relations with Dargoon. Because Dargoon has almost infinite growth potential off like this. While the elves have growth potential off like this. I mean, they could be bumping uglies forever like this. So that's Dargoon's curve. That's Aranel's curve. That's Droam's curve. That's Sarlona's curve, to be uninterrupted. Which means that this guild has basically infinite space to expand that way. This guild has infinite space to expand that way. And the team currently has infinite space to expand this way. Let's drop this down. Create a new window. Not bad. So the team could, of course, decide to hop the rim and hang out over here if they want to, but they're going to get attacked constantly by Droam, and guild number 2 could poach them if they're hostile. They could decide to try to navigate this neutral zone between Dargoon and Aranel. Aranel would probably appreciate it, but Dargoon sure as fuck wouldn't. So they're going to get pirated and poached constantly by Dargoon. There's no place for them to build along here unless that organization fucks up and lets a Starstone through and causes damage to hub down below. Then whatever that path was could be lost by that guild and be given to somebody else. Either you, number 2, or number 3, 4, or 5, which are guilds waiting to gain territories. So we could technically have a third guild here. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's have a number 3 in here. Just a jump block. 0 is team. 1 is militant. 2 is, I don't know, something. They're good. They're really good. And 3 is new. And we could see 3 just get completely decimated by Dargoon, and then it empties out. So every 10 days, every season, I'll do a check to see if a territory is lost or not. So that'll be every 12 sessions. Basically, Jesus, once a year? That seems a little far off. Let's do 10 day, 1 month. Yeah, every month we'll do an update to see who's still exists and who's potentially taken losses. This is something that we can do on stream because it's going to be every 3. I'm going to do a dungeon or a space combat encounter or a facility espionage or a council negotiation. That's going to be our tasks for the 3 weeks. And then we'll switch gears to another. We'll do on week 4. We'll do the resource roundup and progress the world as our session. And so when we do that resource roundup, we'll see like if little number 3 survives the experience or not. And then the team would then be able to check the results that they have, allocate the resources that they gained, and then decide what their next task is going to be. So it's going to be a pretty freewheeling episode with my team. I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that. So far, so good. And again, you can't like they couldn't come in and like claim this territory because they don't have a path to it. They haven't carved a path. So they could grab here or anywhere out. I mean, they could do any of these or here. Like those are their only options. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 7 plots that they could take. This one will cost 1 resource. This one will cost 1 resource. So I should probably change these to A, B, and C. But whatever. So for now, this costs 1 resource. This costs 4. This one is 9, 9, 9, 4. 1, 4, 9, 9, 16, etc. So they don't have access to the 4 yet. And then, so if they spend that 1 point, that means that they have built enough infrastructure and patrol to be able to have awareness to prospect and scout that area. They would then have to allocate resources specifically to go into that area to resolve what it is. And they don't have to, if they're going, what I'm thinking is, that their default check, oh, that's good. If they don't spend any resources, they just get a raw d20. They can spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 5 resources during a challenge. If they have second rank military, they can't invest more than 2 points of resources to send a passive military crew to make the die roll on their behalf. If they don't spend any resources on that military group, then they're just going to roll a raw d20. But since they're second rank, they could spend up to 2 points to send a second rank squad and to deal with that threat. But if they only wanted to spend 1 point of resources, then they could send a first rank squad to do a d20 plus d4 plus 1, and the result is going to be lower. They could always, since they're second rank, they could always roll 2 points to re-roll that d20. If I let them spend a number of points equal, they can spend 1 point to re-roll a die. But if they don't invest any points into it, then they don't get to roll any dice at all. Because if they're going to spend points on it at all, then they're going to be sending in at least a first rank crew. So they're going to get the D4 and the D1 plus 1. So if they're going to spend any points, they're either not spending any points and letting chips fall as they may, good luck, or they're going to actually invest resources and have the ability to control the result a little bit, and to spend additional points on it thereafter. But if they're a second rank military guild and they only spend 1 resource to send a team in, every point that they spend is going to be a D4, not a D6. If they're a 5th rank guild, they have access to D12, and if they send a 5th rank crew in, every time they spend a point, they could re-roll that D12 for a better result. But if that 5th rank guild only spends 1 point of resources to invest a first rank crew into it, they could spend up to 5 points again to re-roll dice, but all they're re-rolling are d4s. So they have to front load their investment. Currently, best case scenario, they can get 3 points per turn, per 10 day. So that means that they would have to, if they want to accumulate any new zones, they're going to either have to take a really shitty zone that's adjacent to a neighbor that's going to be constantly battling them, which would then force them to spend more resources or attention every season defending that territory. Or they could stockpile their resources so that once they accumulate enough points to purchase another 4-point lot, they now have a larger territory that they can then start pulling in more resources from. They'll get 4 resources per 10 day instead of 3 resources. But if they fail their excavation die roll on the difficulty that they roll, then they don't get any resources from that zone. So you have to succeed the extraction check to get a resource. Your characters can take resources, and every point that you spend on your team that's active, every point that you spend, everyone on the team gets an inspiration point. If you have a 5th rank military, let's go with espionage. If you have a 5th rank espionage espionage industry, and you're performing a heist mission, so you're sending in a heist crew to extract something or gain information, whatever you're trying to do. You send in a heist team, your 5th rank. That means if you spend 1 point, the whole team gets 1d12 that they can spend at some point during the adventure to modify their results. Or they could spend that die instead to re-roll a d20. But they're 5th rank. So if they spent 5 resources, everyone on the team gets 5 12-sided dice that they could spend at any point during the adventure to re-roll to improve the result of something. And everyone can batch that shit together. So like if Mist the Rogue is attempting to pick a lock during an espionage mission and he absolutely just cannot fucking pick that lock, other people on the team could just throw chips, could just throw resources at him to re-roll the die, and you could spend a point to re-roll the 20, and you can spend a point to re-roll d12s. Take the best result that you get out of the batch of them. But the team, there's 6 people on the team. If everyone shows up, then that means that at 5th rank, there would be a total of 30 points for them to spend over the next 3 weeks during the course of their adventure to make the dice do what they want them to do. But they're 5th rank. They're effectively like 17th level characters that are attacking a problem. They're going to succeed at the problem. These are all just, either passive dice by allocating this to the team to do it. It's just a single die roll that they can modify with resource points. Or if the team is handling it personally themselves, then they'll have a kit of characters that they've built at whatever rank it is that they're at. And then they can take in however many resources they want to spend. They can bring those points to the table with them to modify their individual die rolls during combat or dungeon delving or in conversations, whatever it is that they want to do. So at low levels, they're going to be severely starved on their die rolls. But as they accumulate more territories and they pull in more resources, they're going to be able to afford to throw those points away to acquire more points, to be able to ramp up, to be able to have more success. And at some point, we're probably going to be content with it. I don't know if I have an endpoint to the campaign right now. I think we're just playing it until something happens, until we're like, I think we're content with this. This is cool. Or like some sort of tangential plot line opens up and the team is like, let's dive out of this and let's focus in on this character group specifically to perform these tasks. And then maybe we can like make a branch off sub-campaign that then slides this to the side and they're just focusing on maybe just those characters. I'm not 100% yet. But if one adventure and one cycle takes 4 sessions and we're having 1 session per week, that means once per month they're going to update their resources and potentially expand their territory. That means over the course of a year as a team, we're only going to have 12 updates, which means that they're probably only going to be able to push themselves out, probably best case scenario, probably push themselves out the 3rd, maybe the fourth orbit. So they're going to be far from done. So we could potentially run this for years. If they liked it and they wanted to build that out, and depending on what kind of adventures they decided they personally wanted to invest in, that's going to really drive the flavor of the campaign, whether it's negotiating with people, getting to know the personalities and machinations of different organizations, nations, and their diplomats, or if you do a bunch of heist missions and espionage, you could start getting into into counter espionage, and have deepening layers of spy organizations that the team becomes familiar with that might be like non-territory guilds that exist inside a hub. Like there could be like an espionage-focused adventure tier that sits inside of hub where there's no combat, just espionage and negotiations. Or they could get into like real military campaigns where they're building out an armada to defend their territory and potentially conquer another area. Or build out envoys, like fleets of envoys to send diplomats to other nation states for them to negotiate peace and cooperation between them, and then maybe share resources to gain access to stuff that they might not otherwise have access to. I see a lot of potential there, and that's a decent path. I think that's a decent block. So they're going to start at first rank with all organizations. They're going to be able to choose when we get back together next time. They'll have a vote to choose which industry do they want to be second rank, and then they get to choose. I could shuffle, I can have this map built, assuming that they're over here, or they could choose over here, or they could choose over here. So I'm going to build out these 3 different locations, and I'm going to rearrange the 3 themselves into 2 rival factions, 3 rival factions, based on where they decide which location that they want. And depending on which location they choose is going to flavor most of the types of encounters that they're dealing with initially. I like that. I like this. All right, I'm going to call this session here. I'm actually going to be back doing this tomorrow about the same time at 1 o'clock. So it should be like around 1 o'clock that I'm doing it. Yeah, that feels right. So I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll be doing that then. And I'm going to be back tonight in about 5 hours. We're going to be back and we're going to do more Eberron creature token art. So you can check that stuff out too if you want. If you think this stuff is cool, or if you want to see more artwork for the combat and the Spelljammer combat and exploration supplement that we've been building here on stream for the past year, it is almost done. We're like D6 plus 9 days away from publishing it. Its time frames are collapsing quickly at this point, so we're doing really good. We're going to get it published on DMsGuild this month. So if you want to see that journey and tag along, we're doing page dressing and basically final markups on the document right now in the morning to see how it all folds together. Yeah, and then on Saturday we have our work. So I'm here Monday through Friday in the morning. On Saturday I have a later in the morning, a mid-morning workbench. Sunday, I release a recorded video. Monday, Tuesday, and Friday during lunchtime, we're developing this Eberron campaign. So I think I should actually have enough. I should have all the structure probably finished by Friday. And then we're going to start just creating random encounters for different types of monsters that can be occupying different asteroids, building out 5-room cavern complexes, and looking at how we can create complications and challenges for the 4 different the 4 different modes of adventure: zone combat, delving, espionage, and negotiations. So there'll be challenges and complications for each of those 4 gears that the team can shift into. So we're making good progress here, guys. I expect the basic mechanics, the base premise of the campaign should be done by this Friday. We'll have tomorrow and Friday to figure that out. Next week, we'll be building challenge and complication tables, which means that so we'll have that finished up by the 16th, which means that by the 19th, the campaign should be up and running. So, yeah, that's looking real. I don't have a game session with the team. Our work is doing weird stuff on Wednesday, so we don't get our weekly meet. So I have through the 14th to update everything, which means that we should be working on complication tables at that point, and the team can pick which industry they want to be strong and which territory they want. That'll give me the 16th, the 19th, and the 20th to finish out their specific first session, which will be on the 21st. So, oh man, this is great. And the book will be published by then. And so Eberron will become our morning project, and our workbench will open up on the lunch times because this campaign will be up and running. And our Saturday workbench will be open so we can start working on the Martial Powers Hexcrawl campaign, Colorland Hexcrawl campaign, and finish that up so that we can get our playtesting for the Martial Powers system at 3rd level starting. It'll probably be either on the 4th, the 7th, or the 10th. I'm not sure which day, but God, this stuff's curving out. It's curving out. If I sound surprised, it's because it's happening. It's just they're fun ideas. You don't know they're going to work until they work. But so far, this shit's working. So I'm pretty excited, man. All right. I'm out of here, guys. I'll be back in about 5 hours for Eberron creature token stuff. Thanks a lot for checking this stuff out, guys. I'll see y'all on stream and Discord. Coco, I'll catch up with that link in Discord. I just don't interact with Discord right now during stream. That'll probably change in the future. But anyway, there we go. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see y'all in the future. Cheers.